for this second meeting of the planning organization to order. We have form. Thank you, everybody. First item is the vote of the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
By Altoona, second by the discussion agenda. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Up next, we have a vote of approval on the August minutes.
Move to approve. Altoona.
Second. Oklahoma City, discussion on the minutes. None. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Report to discuss. First, we have the 2024 regional division.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we do have the 2024 regional data bike trail pavement condition report for you. There are a couple updates that I want to share previously to going over some of the results. Data bike's been around since 2017. Initially, we were kind of outsourcing the data processing to a company called Rival Solutions and an app called RRUM, and that would kind of process the data for us. We didn't necessarily have a great methodology for how that data was calculated. They just kind of scored it, gave it back to us, we published it. So we worked with Iowa State for a number of years to help us kind of dig into how that data is actually processed. So Entrance helped us develop software for that, and we switched that to a much cheaper option that'll make the program much more sustainable and cost effective moving into the future. So that we actually were able to move that back into the MPO now. So that process took us quite a while. Usually you saw this report in the winter, December, January, but you're seeing it now because of those changes and ironing out some of the details there. Another change that we made to programming is that moving forward, we're going to focus on the regionally significant trails, so all the regional trails and then local trails that are regionally significant. That'll help us establish trend line year over year by running over the same trails, and anything new that's added to those same types of trails will give us much more consistent data. Before, we were kind of jockeying back and forth. We would do local trails one year, regional trails the next year. This 2024 report is on the local trails, but starting 2025, we'll be doing the regionally significant trails every single year. So that means that the local trails will fall to local jurisdictions. We have 2 data bikes now, and we will loan out the data bike to local jurisdictions for 2-3 weeks at a time. Ankeny is taking advantage of it, Grimes is taking advantage of it, so that the data bike is available to other jurisdictions to go out and collect their local trails. All right, so into the 2024 data. This is what we collected here. It's about 170 miles of trails, focusing again on those local trails in the member jurisdictions. This data has been published in an online interactive story map that is on our website, the 2024 Data Bike Report. You can find it there and dig into interactive. You can zoom in on all your jurisdictions and look at the local trails there. At a glance, like I mentioned, about 170 miles of trails were collected. I will say that the trails are in pretty good condition. We have over 91% are either smooth or very smooth. So the vast majority.
Where's Altoona on it? All kinds of that. Yeah, trails.
Yeah,
okay. So I walked on them the other day.
Altoona should be in there. I believe it's in the online report. Might have left off this chart, but it should be there.
Yeah, you can just disrespect us.
Now you can see here. Altoona's there. You definitely read the trail go to.
It's not me. Gotta be God or something.
It's definitely in the online report. My mom,
It is my Yankee supervisor.
I'm down seeing my cow.
That's what I was gonna say. I know. Your chair's not taking care of it. Well, the chair and I are very upset about this.
Sorry. Again, the trails are in very good condition overall, over 91% being very smooth or smooth. But it does identify the rougher areas that you might also expect if you.
Was it because ours were bad? It would have dragged you down.
I feel like that's really nice.
Protecting the integrity of the support.
I'll jump in and say the labels on the right-hand side were added so you could actually see them. That's just the graph, but the top bar is actually,
Oh, good luck. Thank
Anthony's there.
you. Yeah.
Oh, we added labels so you could actually see them. That was the best.
All right.
You know, I don't really try. Obviously, it's checking for if it's rough, it's separated, and so forth. What's the top of the data point?
Yeah, so the iPhone on the bike has an accelerometer. It measures the change or the velocity of the change as you're running over the pavement. So we run the center of the trail. The trail varies width from 10, so sometimes it's low as 8, but usually 10 or 12 foot wide. So we're running down the center line of the trail, and as it runs over a bump, it measures the velocity of the bump.
That's pretty much all.
For the roughness. So we also take photos of the trail, and we run that through a tool that Iowa State helped us develop that has kind of an AI component where it's measuring the cracks and the degree of cracking of the trail. So it measures 8 different types of cracking, so we can kind of tie those together. That's where we're headed. Yeah. So we're trying to develop sort of a VCI measurement of the trail as well. So we're looking to put that in VTIMs and kind of to get that. We're not quite there, but we're getting really close. Yeah, but that's the overall goal for this the forecast out meetings and that. So a link will be shared to you in the post meeting follow up, so you can go to the map and dig into it and look at the data. We're also, with moving in-house, able to analyze much faster. So we'll be sharing with you the 2025 data bike report next month. So again, we're looking to establish trend lines of the regionally significant trails going forward. We'll be just focusing on those from the FDO standpoint, but that data bike is available for member jurisdictions to do their local trails. It's available now if you want to do them this fall as well. But happy to take any other questions at this time. Thank you. Great, thank you.
We have the normalized small revision mark.
Thank you. Last month, we presented that we need to update some items and mobilize it tomorrow, our long-range transportation plan. For a number of reasons, we did the planning. I remember the comprehensive safety action plan and all the work that went into that. There were some recommendations to add items in the plan and also update safety targets to make sure that they align with the action plan. We also had our FHWA certification review and the recommendation to potentially include 20 years worth of projects instead of just 10 years. Last month I mentioned that we reached out to technical committee members and asked for projects if they're available. Got no responses, which is completely fine. Because at the time of development, there was also a lot of conversation about do we need to include 20 years of projects? And they said about 10 years. So no new projects. Minor revisions lead to a revision process instead of an amendment process. A little bit quicker and a little easier for everyone. Just a reminder here is what revisions are classified as are LRTP, so it's changes to the modal elements, which would be this recommended change that we're seeking. And then some editorial revisions. Again, there's some minor things that we'll probably clean up along the way as we're taking this time. So what this looks like, here's the most substantial one. We're changing our goals table to change from the fatalities and serious injury forecast out to 2050 and changing those to 0. Those are the most substantial ones. We'll continue to revise, make edits to the plan and do this road plan, and then share that with everyone so they can see it. And then the process from here is actually pretty simple. After we finish that red line, we'll share the final document with the DOT, FHWA, and FTA, so they all have the most current version. And then we'll send it around to committees, and it doesn't need approval or anything because it just follows that version. So, any questions on this?
Goal 1 performance.
Yeah, so we would like to start presenting, how's the transportation system doing. So quarterly, we're going to be doing presentations on performance measures by goal. So for those of you that might remember, goal 1 is about maintaining the system, enhancing the system for capacity, doing optimization of the network. So this is the goal with price as well. But to get into the measures, so we're looking at bridge and pavement on this first table. The base year is what was included in the LRTP. The current year is updated data from between today and backwards to LRTP, but the goals haven't changed. The completion we're down slightly for good, so bridge is in good condition, just up slightly in poor condition, and the percent of deck area has changed slightly for good condition and jumped a little bit more for poor condition. Bridges have to be taken with a grain of salt. Bridges get inspected every 2 years, and depending on when construction is being done on bridges, they might be taken out of that inspection cycle. So a very bad bridge could be lingering in the data that is now currently under construction because it was previously inspected last year. So we're kind of watching this. Overall, I think we're doing pretty well, and we'll be able to hit our 5-year target of maintaining our numbers because we know that we're making investments in bridges and bridges are being maintained. Similarly with pavement, interstate and non-interstate highways is the ones that we primarily report. These are required by US DOT. So they're minor changes to the amounts. As you'll remember, we also expand our planning area, so we have more interstate and NHF systems. So as those things change, we'll be looking at how that impacts that. I think importantly, the average PCI for local roads has slightly increased, which is a good thing. So great job to everyone for maintaining your local streets. And we'll get new data for that. I think 2025 data is what we're looking for, so it'll come sometime in 2022. So we'll have an update of that. The other performance measures in goal 1 are related to reliability of our system. So the top 2 categories here, level of service and freight. And generally what we're saying, this data comes from real-time data that's collected from streetlight, INRIX, and all this probe data from connected vehicles. It ties back to the interstate traffic and highway traffic only. But interstate traffic down slightly in reliability, NHS system up slightly in reliability. This could be explained due to construction on the interstate. So as those projects continue to be worked on and things change and construction happens and detours happen, these will fluctuate a little bit. But I think by the time we look at our 5-year targets, we'll be right there at our baseline. Similarly, freight is based on that same data set. So we've seen a slight increase in the reliability number, which is the wrong direction we want to go. But again, it's likely due to construction and items related to the internet. So that's a great question. It has to do with the planning time. So truck, essentially one would be, it takes the same amount of time as you would forecast. So 1 minute of travel was 1 minute of travel. And the reliability is essentially saying 1 minute of travel in a condition is actually 1.24 minutes. So it comes from the same data that we're getting for the interstate system, and then it just factors it gets with that. Like GPS or stuff. It's probe data, so GPS data, collected connected vehicles.
Anything that would slow down traffic, like an accident.
Yeah.
Obstructions.
Yeah, like,
Change.
yeah, okay, exactly. And construction.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as that freight liability index, I think we're probably going to be okay to hit our target. Again, it's based off a little bit after. Looking at the regional trail system, we have two measures related to gaps. We didn't actually provide an update to the gaps at this time because we've started our active transportation plan and identifying gaps and what is the gap and where are gaps is kind of part of that plan development. So we've just said we're going to hold off on that until we get the active transportation plan further along and gaps are. But I will note that on our regional trail system, a number of gaps have been filled over the recent years. So those numbers should be declining toward our 5-year target. But I feel pretty confident that we'll be, if we were to say nothing changes with these, we're moving in the right direction. The big one is, of course, this pavement condition of our trails. These have kind of a larger swing in numbers. This is due to what Ron was talking about. We've made some changes in how we're calculating things, and we haven't got back yet to address those changes in base year data. So the base year data uses that our rough previous calculation. The current data uses our most recent calculations. So we feel more confident that the 88% in good pavement in good condition and the 3% in poor condition are more accurate numbers than our base year numbers here. So, and as we continue to analyze that, we'll look back over time and see what the trend line is.
Yeah, so as I look at this, typically try to aim high, right? Goal, you want to do well. I see this and I'm like, if base year's 100, our target is to go down. Base year on the other item, 98.3, our target is to go down. Same with percent of pavements in good condition for regional trails. Why? Yeah.
Part of it has to do with as the region's going to grow up in 2050, there's going to be more traffic. So thinking about interstate reliability in the future, we have to factor in future traffic that we don't know about yet. So essentially what we're saying is our target is going to be, 5% less than what we're at currently. But ideally we would be above that. Ideally we'd still be at 100. But we kind of hedged our bets here because this is a federally required one. That 95% is probably a reasonable when you think about what are the impacts of growth and how is that going to impact the interstate system and reliability.
It just strikes me as that I'd want to, hey, reality may be slightly different, but we ought to aim for at least status quo. It looks like status quo is pretty good at 99.5 and 99.6, but this is the federal standard. So yeah.
There's also something to be said about on some of these that we are probably better than what anyone would expect. Like it's okay to have a proof that it's okay. Like there are things that happen because of that it's okay. Like you can not bring transit into it too much, but you sometimes need that to have a robust transit system, have better economic development and so forth. We have a busy roadway that people want to get out on, so some of those things are okay. That for some of those factors.
So the last slide I have for you is just we've added some dashboards we worked on recently to get updated with more recent data and kind of the layout has changed a bit. If you go to the QR code, you can find these. Great to poke around a little bit, but everything's laid out as goal 1. You can look here and see bridge condition. You can zoom in on the map and see where the bridge is. You can click on up to the top there and go between these performance measures that I just mentioned. So it's just a nice way to kind of consolidate goal 1 performance measures and be able to kind of page through those all at once and think about it as a collective goal. And we'll continue to update this data and improve these forward as we move forward. Questions? Quarterly, yep.
Yep, next Lennox, is there anything we'll talk about the process with Bill?
Thank you. Last month when we met, we had a discussion about whether it made sense to pause funding for 1 year to give us time to go through a reevaluate process, the application, and all those kind of things. Reasons for doing that. One would just be to make sure that we're updating it based on what was the plan, the actual economic impact that they had up with all the planning for funding or scoring, like the work we've done. There's also the federal process as they go through the application too far ahead of what the funding might be required. Monitor that. You all are probably aware we could the policy and state that policy. So what we promised you is if everyone agrees to that, come back and outline a process for going through that. So that's what I'm talking about today. So first of all, looking at a couple of the goals we have, what that look like, really three paths. We want to make sure that streamlined strategic impact. So when we look at streamlined, this gets into more of the logistical kind of things. Is it easy for our communities to fill this out? Is it easy for us to score the projects? Are we asking for the right level of information and not asking for previous stuff we don't put? Strategic, we wanted to tie back to us. We wanted to actually open up objectives because of achieving our goal. And then that kind of gets into the impact too. We don't necessarily want to just, I guess our opinion as staff would be, we don't really want to just spread the peanut butter around there and get a little bit of stuff and can't really do anything with it. We want to let them do some projects kind of move things along. So those are kind of the three buckets that we want to kind of look at here. They overlap a little bit, but that's really how we. So then if we look at what that process would look like, really three phases to it. This kind of loop in timeline, we're looking fall and winter. We start looking at that application process. We have the right question, we have the right level of information, the right data, we provide the right data that they need. We also look at maybe that practice, well, something that we kicked around internally, we talked to the tech committee about a little bit, is maybe something like a swap. So a couple of years ago, the IWU facilitated this where they would give us state money, we would give UTR federal money. And then that just made it a little more efficient for us, especially the smaller communities that don't have the expertise or the wherewithal to work with the all federal requirements. Due to the transportation bill we're in now, the DOT couldn't continue to do that, but there's nothing to say we can't just do that on our own. We give all the funding to maybe a couple communities that have the capacity and the staff expertise to move federal funds, they get back local funds, and just make that happen on our own. There are examples from around the country where they do that. Texas, Dallas, Texas, NPO is one of them that we've seen other states that do it on a statewide basis too. But this 1 year pause give us time to go into those types of innovative ideas, not to say for two of them, but it's worth it. So that would really be phase one. It's just dumping all the puzzle pieces on the table, seeing what we're working with, looking at best practices. Phase two would really just be, okay, now we know what we're working with. Here's a handful of different ways we can go about this. We want to go all in on set these robust safety goals. We want to really make that our emphasis. We want to make it that we're completing a couple projects at a time. That's where we put all of our money for a couple projects to do big regional impact. What are the options? Put that before everybody. Make sure everyone's okay with what we're going to do. Majority wins. That's what we do. And then phase three would be implementing. So updating the timelines, sorting the applications, and getting ready to go. As far as who works this and how we go about it, we're envisioning a committee that would be comprised of some folks from the tech committee and probably some folks from the funding subcommittee, which is also subcommittee of the policy committee, committee members on there. They meet, a couple of times each for those different phases and work the process. As we go through it, we make sure we're updating the tech and saying policies so everyone's going to update, really work with that smaller group to do the nitty-gritty work there. So that's what we have for you here. I'm curious if you have any initial thoughts, reactions to this, or any suggestions for us. If not, work with Chair to appoint that committee and get that meeting. If anyone wants to volunteer, you have to obviously always looking for that. We've got some ideas.
Too many volunteers, but probably from an app.
Sure, you'll have to do that. Yeah. If there's things you've heard of, things you, I know we're not the only organization that built up funding, but does kind of things, so see if you're wondering other examples. Yeah.
Just be one.
I don't even know if it would be someone from every community, you know, we had. I'm envisioning like a 7-person or so. Very important that really.
Right. I didn't say, I know the tech committee doesn't have a lot of elected officials.
No, there's not.
It'll be, obviously.
Yeah.
Include them, but I know, like, Scott is on.
Right, and that's what I envision that there'd be a combination of, you know, planners, engineers, and tech committees.
And then bring it back to all that.
Right. Everyone else. Yeah. Same thing.
Perfect.
We have some informational items, our August financial statement, Bill.
Yeah, the statement was put in there for you. I would note that typically we should do an update on the water trail reimbursement process, because they haven't been able to do work at the higher water levels. There's been no reimbursement, therefore that. Normal factors.
Just one question. The water trails, is the Humboldt portion, have they started?
It broke ground, but that's not part of our. We don't have any.
We're not doing the funding through the MPO for that. Okay.
And I will say too that we are, because of the timeline being delayed, we have to make a request. We did make a request to Federal Highway to amend our agreement, because our agreement says the project will be done in December, which we're not going to hit.
Right.
We still have until 2027 to get it done. So, I would encourage it for the move, but we made it the latest date possible, and we can not include some of those other, like Prospect Park and those other projects that we had to include additionally.
You're right.
And we'll see what they say. If they can let us off the hook for that, we'll still pay, and all those projects can be done. It's just the all of it. That would be great. We'll wait to hear back.
From the federal? Yeah.
From the outside.
That'll be it.
And if they don't say,
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Right, that's. Happy to answer any questions. I think it's just an informational item. All right.
we have one request from city managers.
Yeah.
We've got 2 weeks.
Question on that, whether non-action items.
Got a couple things.
Few quick update. Last month we mentioned as part of our SS4 application process, we're trying something new on. This came as a suggestion from one of our consultants who herself was a reviewer for FHWA back a few years ago. And that was to do a media push or a social media push during the review cycle. And our objective here is to get on the news feeds of FHWA and USDOT, just so that they are seeing that there's a lot of local interest and support for this safety initiative. So we're going to start pushing that out next week. And we've been in communication with your tech members as well. We would just ask your jurisdictions to help raise the volume on that a little bit. A little bit of noise will go a long way. We'll be in touch with your staff about this as well. We just want to let you know that's coming and ask for your support.
Are you doing the social media posts here, or are you third party that?
The consultant who helped us develop the application built us a schedule of content, timing, and all that sort of stuff. And we're going to build it out in a software program called Hootsuite where you can pre-schedule it.
Yep.
And we'll also, I probably reach out to your jurisdictions with specific, here's some content that you can share and try to seed it so make it as easy as possible on your staff.
Yeah. Okay.
Update on Future 435. You'll all recall that the Iowa DOT and MPO committee is doing an alternative analysis. This is for the slow-moving vehicles on the corridor who asked for an alternative. The RFP did go out from the Iowa DOT, and that closed. There was 3 very competitive responses to that. So we're feeling positive about the quality of response that we received. We're reviewing those now, and the selection committee will meet on the 10th next week to make a recommendation for our selection.
They're gonna figure out budget.
I haven't personally dug too deep into them. I've heard one of three. So I can't answer that question.
Pretty hefty budget, that's what I was hoping.
Yes,
There's also no response to budget items related to the.
The timeline to get on this, that'd be good.
I think we'll finalize the timeline as we're negotiating the actual thing, but we're amending. I don't think
They're being budget allocated for market, with the DOT does their RFP, they don't have, like, that, they take a qualified people that they negotiate.
Why would I feel like we don't? Maybe I get it.
because we have talked about round numbers of what we would like us.
Will be, oh, okay,
We put money into our budget, but we know what we can afford.
yeah. Take it out of our reserve. It's in
We just got, we did.
Okay. I couldn't remember how many deals. I know we talked about paying for it, was it?
It's almost
150, 200.
Yeah, it's good. We initially had to show it as local floods out here, but then our money was better. The better they were looking.
Okay.
I think there's a saving moment too.
Right, and the state is leading it, so we are. Initially in the budget, we showed it as we would upfront the cost that you would give data. Yeah, back we're sure with that. We'll cut checks with the DOT, but
Okay.
they'll be the fifth range. That's why they did the RFP.
You said about a year ago. Like a year.
If I were guessing, yes. So please don't hold me to that exact number, but yes.
Oh.
I knew it.
No, right now, got her counter, and caught her, and then I have another last one I couldn't record you.
We'll publish it on YouTube this afternoon. Was it?
Just want to make you aware of a grant deadline that is coming up here. So the federal and state rec trails for federal fiscal year 2027 is due on October 1st. So if your communities are planning any of those, just want to make you aware of that deadline upcoming. And then lastly, our city data contract. You recall back in March, we approved to go ahead and enter a contract with them. We entered that in April. This was in a goal to give us a deeper level of data surrounding our trails, parks, and events happening in cities. So that first deliverable was paid to us and is ready for review. So we'll be sharing a link with you in the post-meeting follow-up that you can go ahead and check out. I will say the first deliverable made it very clear that we have some data cleaning to do, which we were aware of in our Trails GIS. So we've already been going through a process of updating our rules for how Trails GIS data is input into the system. So we're going to be convening all the regional editors from member jurisdictions, counties, to go ahead and convene this winter to get the GIS updated, which will give us a much clearer picture because city data is using a field that is not always entered by editors currently. They're using the name of the trail, which is inconsistent throughout. So you'll see in the data that not all the trails are in there because anything that was blank is just not showing up. So we're going to get that sorted out and corrected so that we have a full view of our data and all of our trails. And they did give us the go ahead though to start working with our local jurisdictions to start inputting the local assets. So parks, local trails, events, farmers markets, stuff like that. So I'm going to start reaching out to you to set up meetings to see exactly what cities want to see in that from data related to those, and we'll start getting that put in so you guys can start pulling some data from parks and events. So happy to take any questions you might have now.
So Mayor Ellen, I know you want longer end, so we're in touch with your staff. The first indicated.
Great, thank you.
Is this, are these actual trail counters or is this using like cellular and other data for purposes of triangulated estimate?
Yep, this is cell phone data, so we use 10,000 different sources that comes into deciding where a phone is from, where the phone is at, and who the person is. So if you dig into the dashboard, you can see it. It'll show you where they're coming from down to the census block level. So it's pretty granular data in there. You can see how long they're visiting, how often they're visiting.
Okay, I know, I was reach out to our community, we've got several, actual trail counters that are, to the point, right, as opposed to just kind of guessing, so I'd be curious how how these things will work together.
Yeah, and when we're setting up the initial, that they ask for our ground truth, and that is those physical counters, so
Okay,
adjusted that as well.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next meeting's on October 2nd, 11:30. Thank you everyone for attending today. And motion to adjourn. Okay, second. I'm on there, thanks, I also all favor. Yeah. Same sign. Thank you.